Hello class, and here we are in chapter 1. We're going to be discussing students and the nature of our students. As I always say in my classes, if you're going to teach, evaluate and assess and test your students, what is the first thing you need to know a lot about? Your students. The comparisons that I usually do is, if you're going to evaluate the efficiency of the space shuttle program, would you need to know a lot about the space shuttle? Or if you're going to evaluate how effective is the engine of a Ferrari, what do you need to know about? You need to know about engines and Ferraris. Well, if you're going to evaluate students, particularly ELL students, English language learners, what do you need to know about? You need to know about them. You need to know about the details of their narratives, their histories, their backgrounds. You need to know about the complexity of second language acquisition and what it means to learn a second language, trying to emphasize or sympathize with the notion of being an immigrant in a different country, not speaking the language, not understanding the culture, being in a classroom that may be a completely new experience of something that you don't even understand. Why is it important to understand, or at least to know their narratives, experiences, and backgrounds? And that, by the way, includes their families, their houses. Is it a literacy-rich home? Is it a literacy-poor home? Do they have books in the house? What educational level do their parents have? What kind of education did they receive in their home country? All these factors, all this information is important because it should and it will inform your practice. Many times as teachers, we approach education as the school is this rigid, fixed industry of which we are the teachers of, and so students come in and we just assume that they're going to adapt to the institution that is already in place, and that is really difficult to change. Yet we know that it is us, the teachers and the institution, that needs to adapt to the population of students coming in. Listen, a lot of the teaching pedagogy and teaching methods that still today are being taught in American institutions are teaching methods from 40, 50 years ago, when the population of students in the United States was pretty homogeneous. Today, in Colorado, say, in our classes, in any other states in the United States, we're going to have classrooms with anything between 20 to 80% ELL, free reduced lunch. We're going to have classrooms packed with non-mainstream students, non-middle class, non-Anglo, non-English speaking students. So a lot of the teaching pedagogy that we used decades ago may not necessarily fit their needs. Now, I understand the whole philosophy of good teaching is good teaching, but we'll talk about teaching in chapter 3 for this book. Bottom line, getting to know your students, their experiences. How can you do this? You can do this with collecting survey, collecting information, narratives, asking them to write about. This is also a very big point when trying to develop English literacy. Many times we have a new student coming into our school and we ask them to write an essay in English so that we have a sample of what level of English writing they have. Now, most of the times we give them the topic. And most of the time, these topics are culturally loaded. We ask them to write about the US, or our history, or our cities, or the state. Well, we know that we're going to get a more meaningful writing sample if we ask the students to write about something they know about, something they're familiar with. So we can ask them to write in English about their experience in their home country. What was it like living there? What are people like in there? What are their families like in there? What was the daily routine of them back home like? Not only we will get a more meaningful and valid sample of their English writing that will really tell us what they're capable of writing, but we're also empowering them and acknowledging that they come from a different culture and a different language and a different history. And by allowing them to write about this, we're empowering them, we're making them feel proud about it, and we're not tabooing their histories. We're not making it something that we're not going to discuss in the classroom. On the contrary, we're going to include it. It's going to be embedded in the curriculum. It's the stuff that they're going to write about It's their histories, their countries, their origins. And it gives us a good sample of the level of English that they have so that we can intervene and figure out where we need to take them in the next step. What else can you do? Collecting surveys to figure out level of education, language at home, hours of TV and what kind of TV and what language they watch it. Home visits. I'm a great defender of home visits. I have research and literature that I can share with you on how to conduct meaningful and culturally valid home visits. So you don't feel like you're just going there not knowing what to do. Get to know your students, get to know their histories, get to know their families, their narratives, their stories. Embed them in your practice, in your instruction, and the relationship between teacher and student will be more ecological, more organic, more natural. It will not be this established set of, this is how I teach, this is how the education system works in the United States. Welcome, but now assimilate. And now try and fit into this system that already exists. And if you don't, well, then it's social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Is basically what is supposed to happen. No, that's not what multiculturalism believes. We multiculturalists, educators, pedagogues, we don't believe in that. We believe in reaching the students where they're at and taking them to the highest potential. That means that we may have to adapt and accommodate to their individual and particular needs. All right, so look forward to seeing you in the discussions. Adios.